liked watching television and making believe I was on television. And there were some times when I was a normal child. I was on the Howdy Doody show.
That's a normal child would do that.
Yeah, there were other children in the peanut gallery.
Brought to you by the many fine products of General Foods.
Hi, I'm Tom Cottle. This man is a man that creates extraordinary humor. The substance, the content, the timing is very different, I think, than what we're normally used to. In fact, as I was thinking about it, he sort of turns the world upside down from time to time and asks us to kind of stand on our heads to even grasp what it is that he's doing. And we do, and we seem to love it. Now, who is this creator of all this comedic stuff? Who is this man, Andy Kaufman? Quite frankly, I don't know. But in a minute, when I come back, I'm going to do my best to find out. We are back, and I'm speaking today with Andy Kaufman, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Andy Kaufman. We're sitting here with two guys, two colds, huh?
Yes.
You have a cold?
Uh-huh.
With a balloon on the box?
Yes.
I know very little about you, kind sir, but I'd like to find out a little bit, if I may.
Okay.
And I suppose as good a starting point as any, if you'll forgive me, is to try to learn a little bit about your childhood. Here's what I found out, something about childhood. That you locked yourself in the room, I heard.
Yeah, I would lock myself in my room and put on television shows all day.
For yourself?
Well, yeah, I thought that there was really a camera in the wall and that I was really on television. And my parents would always tell me, go outside and play with the other kids.
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't want to, you know, and this worried them. But I really liked staying in my room and just putting on shows all day.
What shows would you put on?
I had about 4 hours of programming every day. I called my station Channel 5 because I lived in a house 5. The number on the house was 5. Yeah. The street address was 5.
Right.
So I said it was Channel 5. Plus Channel 5 in New York was a real station, so I figured I was on Channel 5. And, I had all kinds of different shows. Adventure shows, horror shows, old-time movies, cartoons.
Well, what would you do, though?
Well, I would play all the parts. I would just run around the room just playing all the parts. And
you would announce the show. This is now.
There was I don't remember much of them. I remember one that was like an old-time silent movie show, because in those days on television they showed a lot of old-time silent movies on children's programming, you know, instead of cartoons.
Sure.
So I didn't understand what was going on these old-time movies when I would watch them. So all I knew was that these people were walking around faster than usual, and that there was this music playing. And I didn't know anything about the plots of these movies. So when I was recreating them for myself, all I did, really, there wasn't any plot. It was just me for a half hour walking around going like this, you know, like that, and just doing all kinds of faces and falling down and stuff like that.
No one's in the room with you?
No, no one was in the room with me.
Would you perform in front of people? Would you do this in front of your parents or your brothers and sisters?
When I got older, my mother really began worrying, and she said, you cannot do this anymore unless you have an audience. And even if it's one person, I don't care, you must have an audience. And my sister, my little sister, had just been born, and she hardly knew she didn't know how to talk. She didn't know anything. But, well, I don't remember how much she knew how to talk, actually, because she could chew gum. She loved bubble gum. So what I would do is bribe her, and I'd give her a piece of bubble gum every day if she would just sit in the room. And also, I wasn't shy in front of her because she didn't know how to talk. So I would just put on these shows, and she'd sit in the room, and she'd be my audience. And that was my loophole. I got my mother on that one. You know, I had my audience.
Was your mother worried that something...
Yeah, they were worried that I was crazy, you know. I was alone a lot of the time, you know, very lonely childhood.
Because I read that, and I also read that your parents were concerned and took you to psychologists.
Yes.
To try to find out, I suppose, is this guy all right?
Yeah, they were worried.
Or is he off the wall? Is he crazy? Is he something wrong, I would imagine?
Yeah. Well, because I was always alone, and my mother told me when I was 2 years old when my brother was born. He was my younger brother. I was the oldest of 3.
Yeah.
And she said, a few years ago, she told me, I didn't remember this, she said the reason they started taking me to psychologists or psychiatrists was because when he was born, I started standing in the living room, and I would stare out the window just stare, and I would be very sad, and they felt that a child shouldn't be sad, so they thought something was wrong.
Were you sad? Do you remember being? No,
yeah.
do you remember being sad?
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah.
Do you remember what you were sad about? Had anything made you feel sad? An event?
No, just sad. Maybe it was my grandfather. One of my grandfathers died, and I was very young, and I was very close to him. Papu, I used to call him, Papu. And he used to sit with me in the living room at night and sing this one song that he taught me, which was our song that us two had together. It was The Grandfather's Clock.
Which
goes? The grandfather's clock stood 90 years on the wall, but it stopped short, never to go again when the old man died.
Yeah.
You know that song?
Yeah.
So he and I would sing it together all the time, and I was just a real infant, you know, but I remember it. He was a real gentle man. He was always gentle, never yelled. My mother told me about him, you know, as I got older, how he, you know, refreshing my memory and stuff,
yeah.
you know, he was just that way. He wasn't just that way with me, but with everybody. He was very gentle. So he loved me very, very much, and I loved him. And he died when I was about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old.
About the time you start looking out the window, perhaps.
Maybe that was it. I don't remember if I was 5 years old or 3 years old or 2 years old.
Yeah.
My mother would remember.
Yeah.
But he died, and when he died, I remember he was in the hospital for a while, and I would see him less and less, and I would think, oh, and I was getting sad because
You're not seeing him.
You're not seeing him. And then when he died, they didn't tell me because I didn't know anything about death. So they told me that he went away. And I said, well, when's he coming back? And I kept waiting for him to come back, and he never did. And I would just ask every once in a while, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? And they said, well, he's never coming back. He went on a long trip, and he's never coming back. And when I got older, my mother said that they realized that it was a mistake for them to tell me that, because then I kept saying, well, why didn't he take me with him? If he was my friend, you know? And then I pictured...
If he loved me,
yeah,
he would have taken me.
And they said that God, who I just thought was this other guy, you know, God took him away with him. God wanted him. So I said, well, what happened? So I pictured him driving along, that he had gone on a vacation, and all of a sudden God lifted him up out of the car, and, you know, and wasn't bringing him back, letting him come back.
Mm.
So at first I think I resented the fact he didn't take me with him, but when they explained to me about God lifting him up and
That's
stuff...
kind of a nice idea.
Yeah, it was all right then.
We're going to find out more after we take this break, okay?
Okay.
Back in a moment with Andy Kaufman.